my world. And at Heaven 97, 1040 KGGR, things that we're doing now, this pastor, we have a local pastor with us today, Pastor Fred Porter. He's the pastor of the Missionary Church of God in Christ. About 2 or 3 years ago, he started the Christian Television Network. And as we read the book here, Sakona, by Dr. Michael Thompson, and read what he is doing worldwide, many of you who have platforms, you've been reaching, well, the United States of America. How'd you like to reach Europe? How would you like to reach Africa? If you've got products to sell globally, the market now went from local to global. And when you hear this technological genius that we have here today, by a show of hands, how many of you have heard of Dr. Sebi? By just a show of hands, let me see where you are culturally in terms of your mentality, where you're at, really. Now, this brother here, I would put him on a technological level possibly beyond what Dr. Sebi was dealing with from a health point of view. And many of you know that in the early 1900s, there was Rockefeller, who basically found that the American Cancer Society took over natural medicine so that he would not be able to heal holistically, and have just now run a game on us. But what Dr. Michael Thompson is going to tell us about this brand new platform. Now, you've heard of Truth Social, you've heard of Google, you've heard of Yahoo. Have you ever considered having a platform or a network of your own? Yes. Of your own, that you control. Mark Zuckerberg can't take nothing down. Twitter can't take nothing down. Elon Musk can't take nothing down. Even though he's finding a lot of money that could have paid for reparations years ago. But as a newsman, I'm sorry to tell you that once we find out where all that money went, you're going to find out how some Congress people could only earn $170,000 a year, but their net worth is $20 million, $30 million. And if they all go to jail for treason, stealing, espionage, so be it. Yes. Black, white, Democrat, or Republican. Martin Luther King Jr., this Black History Month, says, don't judge me by the color of my skin, judge me by the content of my character. And this brother right here, the kind of character that he has in terms of his technological revolution, scares a lot of people who don't want us to be a part of the technological revolution. See, right now, our kids are graduating from high school. Many of them think the only option they have is to become a rapper or a professional football player. But you see what P. Diddy is off into now. And even some of our preachers, if you will, have been called up. Oh, let me stop. But anyway, because I'm saying that we've got to live above reproach. We've got to have a new mindset. We've got to believe that we have literally overcome. We have everything we need. You got black mayors, you got black presidents, and I hope his name doesn't come up on that list, but if it does, so be it. So now, what's holding us back? How do you see yourself? What is your self-worth? If somebody offered you $200 million for your ideal, would you take the $200 million and go and buy you an island somewhere and say the heck with society? Because if they wouldn't offer you $200 million for it, how much is it really worth? All right, Boudin, man, you're talking. But I'm just trying to set the stage because Dr. Michael Thompson is with us today. And when I read this book, I took a whole day and a half. I said, okay, I'm not going to go work out today. I'm not going to go shoot no basketball. I'm not going to go do this. I'm not going to watch the Dallas Mavericks tonight. I got to finish this book. And this book that the brother gave out, as everybody's coming in, our children, it's the next generation that's going to reap a harvest from this. Now, many of you probably will reap harvest as well if you've got product that's ready for a global, worldwide market. It's about technology. Don't fear the computer. Don't fear it. God gave you the kind of mind that you can do anything you want. All you got to do is apply yourself. Now, Dr. Michael Thompson is the brother who turned down $200 million. They wanted what's in this book. He turned down $200 million. There was a young rapper by the name of Young Dolph out of Memphis, Tennessee. Now, I'm just checking by a show of hands. Anybody heard of Young Dolph? Okay. Now, this was a brother who was offered, I think it was $200 million too, Dr. Thompson, by one of these big rap organizations. Homeboy, you might know who I'm talking about. I think he was offered $200 million by, what was it, what's the name of Jay-Z's group? Rock Nation? He said, why should I accept a $200 million deal? He had already signed the deal. And he said, look, if they're going to pay me $200 million for it, it must be worth $1 billion. And when he tore up the contract and said, keep your $200 million, I'm going to go out here and make a couple of billion within 10 years. He already had the plan. And then all of a sudden, he wind up, as the young folks say, he got smoked. He got killed. Because somebody didn't want him to be who God made him to be. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to call up right now a very distinguished gentleman who did not go to MIT. He did not go to any of the Silicon Valley schools. His parents wanted him to go to school. You know, when you're a kid, they might buy you a toy. And next thing you know, you coming home and the toy has been disassembled. And the same day, he goes back and reassembles the toy, showing his technological prowess even in elementary school with his Hot Wheel racing set. Now by show of hands, how many of y'all had those Hot Wheel racing sets when you were coming up? And you know, you always would race your homeboys, you always wanted to win. But see, Dr. Michael Thompson had a technological capability of enhancing those cars where they would go around the track even faster. This is in elementary school. And then when he got to junior high school, most kids were out, courting girls and doing this and doing that. This brother was at home teaching himself how to code. At home teaching himself how to manipulate artificial intelligence, if you will. And in our high school right here in Dallas-Fort Worth, our kids are not in those programs the way that they should be. I had a brother who just moved out to Frisco, left Oak Cliff and moved to Frisco. His kids' grade point average went up over 30%. And they discovered reading disabilities. But yet, we focus a lot on racism and our kids can't even read. Our priorities are mixed up. And what we're finding now, there's a generational clash. We've got the old school, we've got the new school. The new school is saying, hey man, I'm sick of the civil rights movement. We have overcome. I can go to any school I want. I can do this, I can do that. I make money. I know how to code. I made $125,000 last year working 4 hours a day. Whereas, so the older generation might say, oh, Donald Trump is in office now. Black folks are going back. I said, man, get out of here with that kind of mentality. And in Dr. Thompson's book, he talks about we've got to change our mentality. No more this slave mentality. You got to have the I can do anything I put my mind to mentality. As a matter of fact, that's why they brought crack cocaine into the black community many, many years ago. We discovered that the CIA, the FBI, because they were trying to retard us mentally because they knew that the technological revolution was coming down the pipe. Okay, let me stop. Because, we've only been a newsman. I've been a newsman for the last 45 years of my life. And the news media will lie to you every day because they're trying to manipulate how you think. But Dr. Michael Thompson is here, and you got to get this information to the children because they already know how to do this. But the reason why we don't have those STEM classes packed out in our high schools at South Oak Cliff, Kimball High School, is because they don't want you part of that money process. They don't want you doing no Elon Musk. And Elon, I ain't mad at you because you done found, what was it, $50 million going to the Taliban for condoms? Man, you better get out of here. You could have used that money to build a major shopping center over here in South Dallas. $50 million going to the Taliban for condoms. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, let's bring up the author of Sakoma and the technological genius of the 25th century. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Michael Thompson. God bless you, sir.
Man, thank you for that introduction. That was an incredible introduction. And I'm just laughing because, I'm a joyous person and I really, enjoy the fact that you read the book and that you actually remembered a lot of what you read in the book. But he did make one mistake.
Okay.
It wasn't Hot Wheels cars.
Oh, was it not Hot Wheels?
No, they were Tyco electric racing cars.
Oh, my bad. I knew it was the racing cars. But how did he get the motors to go that fast?
Exactly. Hot Wheels don't have motors.
Okay. Thank you, brother.
All right.
Well, see, now, that just goes to show you how sharp his mind is. And you've got to be able to listen. That's one thing that we've got to do. We've got to have the discipline to listen. Now, Dr. Thompson, talk to us, sir, about, your beginnings. You didn't go to any of these big multi-mug schools in Silicon Valley. How did you become the technological genius whose company right now is projected to be valued at $2.9 billion?
Well, basically, it was just a gift that God gave me as a child, because I remember right now at this moment being 3 and 4 years old. I can remember it, and the things that I had, the toys and everything else, and I just had that interest, and that interest really started with spaceships, the moon, and all that kind of stuff. That's where it started. And then my dad had some little, it was a Mustang. I remember what it is now. Then I didn't know it was a Mustang, but it was a little model Mustang car. That I don't know how much time I spent trying to put that thing together at 4 years old. But eventually I got it, and it took a long time. So it was always in me naturally.
My goodness. Now, the issue of video streaming, we all recall buffering. Y'all remember when video streaming first came out, the buffering? I said, man, what the world's going on with this buffering? I can't even enjoy this video because of all this buffering. And this brother right here created the prototype that introduced video streaming without buffering to the world. Now, were you with Verizon at that time, or were you on your own when you developed that prototype?
I was actually on my own. This is prior to Verizon even existing. And when it comes to buffering, video is still buffering even to this day.
Yes.
But it's just a lot less than what it did back then. So my idea really was, how do we push video across copper lines, audio across copper lines? And this was in 1997, 98, 99, before any of this really took off. So when I sat back and thought about it, I was just like, man, this can be done. But, I didn't really think, about really doing it.
Yes.
And it didn't come about until I had a friend that was complaining about his internet and everything else. That's what really forced me over the edge to really go and do it.
Yeah, that coworker, he was standing outside smoking, I think, and you went over and started talking to him, and he was irritated, and you guys began to talk about that. And was that when you first decided, let me see if I can figure out how to create video streaming?
Right.
Without the buffering, as much buffering?
With low buffering, and also how to improve the speed of the internet connectivity. There was a lot of variables there, but I was at Quest LCI at the time, and he was a salesperson. So he went out and sold fiber optic connectivity to businesses, governments all over the United States. And my job was, when he sold something, my job was to explain to those companies and government agencies how the technology worked, how it can be incorporated and everything else. So I just happened to be at the door one day, and he was outside in the dead of winter. It was cold, and he was smoking a cigarette. And I'm inside looking at him like, man, why does he look so mad and upset? So I decided to go out there, and I'm like, man, how can you look so upset? So he's like, man, I'm sick of this place. And I'm like, what place? And he was looking at this building across the street, and he lived in those apartments across the street. He said the internet keeps going out, the television keeps going out, the phone keeps going out. And I'm just like, man, I said, I do not understand why that keeps happening. I'm like, because if they just did this, this, and this, and this, and this, and I said, and if they did those things, they could also push video across there. I'm like, man, think about that, how that would impact things. So we just looked at each other. He kept puffing on a cigarette, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna build this. And when I do, I'm quitting, I'm leaving here. I'm like, it's a good job and everything else, but I'm leaving here. And I said, we'll be 50-50 partners. He said, okay. And then I built it, went to him, said, here it is. He came over, looked at it, he saw it work, and I said, I'm putting my resignation. I said, let's type it up together. So I typed mine up, but he refused to type his up. And I said, well, I'm going to own 100% of this.
Yes.
And then the rest was history.
Now, is that when you eventually went to Verizon?
Actually, what I did was, after I quit my job at Quest LCI,
Yes.
I reached out to, I think, 3 or 4 companies,
Right.
telecom companies, and said, I have a solution that will allow you to push video across your existing infrastructure. And I said, I know people out here trying to do it, and no one has been able to do it yet. I said, but I got to figure it out. And let me tell you something, just a few days later, I got a call, and it was One Point Communications.
Yes.
And they said, do you really have this? I'm like, yeah, I got it. They said, when can we see it? We want to see it. And I said, well, I have a lab up in New York. I said, let's schedule time. And they said, okay, I'll call you back. So they called back, and they had like 4 people that they wanted to come. And they said, are you sure you have this technology? I said, yes, I do. It works. So we all met in New York. We met at the lab, and they saw that it worked. They were impressed. They cut the wires. It stopped working. And I said, twist the wires back together. They twisted it back together. It started working again. And then one ran out of the room. And when he ran out, and see, I was like 30 years old then. I'm like, why did he run out of the room? So he came back in, and he was excited. And I'm like, okay, well, he must have called somebody. And then, next thing I know, just a week or so later, they made me an offer. And I was like, okay, cool, that'll work. So we worked through the deal, and it wasn't the best deal that I could get.
Yes.
Again, I was young, inexperienced at the time. So I took the deal and became a vice president within One Point Communications.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found out, since I was at that level with them, that they were trying to be acquired by Bell Atlantic. And Bell Atlantic said, well, why should we acquire you when you have nothing different than anyone else? But they said, we do. We have video now. And at that time, Bell Atlantic invested so much money into video, they were just like, that's impossible. They were like, no, we have it. So basically the deal was contingent upon the video technology. Bell Atlantic saw the video technology, the deal went through. And then that's when One Point Communications became part of Bell Atlantic. And then they said, well, since we're acquiring all these companies, we need to change the name from Bell Atlantic. So I was, in the presence in the room when they were changing the name and everything else, and kicking around ideas, and then they eventually came up with the name Verizon.
Mm-hmm. Now, you were the vice president of video
services
for Verizon.
Right, for Verizon.
And they knew that you had this prototype. They knew that you had this multi-billion-dollar prototype that you developed. They knew it. But did they stifle you? What happened when they discovered what you had?
Okay, well, I'm laughing because
I got pissed off when I read it. I'm sorry.
They did not understand me because they were all white. I'm keeping it real.
Right.
But the president of Verizon Communications at the time was a black man, Bruce Gordon. And we were like this. We saw eye to eye, and he made it clear that and he's talking about my group, because in my group, we were probably the most diverse group within Verizon at the time. And we had people from just all over the world, because I didn't choose people based upon their skin color.
Yes, sir.
I chose them based upon what they could do.
Exactly.
And if their character fits in with what I thought it should be. So he said that your team is the future of Verizon. And he pointed it all out at a meeting. And then we started to run into these little hurdles and roadblocks and all of that, because Bell Atlantic had already started a video division that spent $80 million plus. And $80 million is on the low side, just to keep it real. It's on the low side.
Yes.
So, and there was an all-white team. So needless to say, a black VP coming in with black directors, Hispanic directors, Filipino, and everything else, it kind of threw them for a loop. And long story short, it was politics, I believe, could have been, some other, issues, but it wasn't performance-based. because we had the solutions and we proved that we could do what no one else could do. And the Hollywood studios backed us up because they were willing to give us the content that nobody else in the world had at that time.
So Verizon stifled you going forth with that prototype. But now, was that before you went to Hollywood and the Hollywood people went crazy over it, and then you had the situation with Disney, or was it after you went to Hollywood?
Well, actually, before I went to Hollywood, there was no problem.
Okay.
There was no problem at all. It all happened when I went to Hollywood because what I did was I figured, okay, I got this great budget, I got a great team. We had an airplane sitting at National Airport that I could use anytime I wanted to use.
Yes.
So I'm just like, you know what? We need content. Content is king. I'm going to Hollywood. I'm going to Hollywood.
Right.
I'm going to get every studio to come and see what we have. And I did that, and I didn't ask for permission. I was told after I should ask for permission.
Wow.
But I did not. I'm thinking, man, I'm a vice president. I can do what I want.
Yes, sir.
That was my attitude, really. I can do what I want. And but they didn't agree with me.
So when you went to Hollywood, you had invited who all had you invited to the meeting in Hollywood? Tell us about that Hollywood meeting.
Yeah.
And the situation involving Disney.
Okay. Yeah. So what I did was, one of the things I realized now is that I've always been well connected with people. So I called some of my friends, and and one of them, his name was Dennis Sullivan. I said, Dennis, I need to meet with the studios in Hollywood. I need all the top people. So he said to me, okay, give me a list of studios. So I said, I want Warner Brothers, MGM, Disney, New Line, Sony, DreamWorks. I want everybody that we can think of.
Yes.
So he said, okay. So I, told him exactly what I wanted to do. So, and then I said, I also want music. And this was in 99. And, 99, 2000, right around there. So I'm like, I also want music. And nobody was streaming music or doing the movies or anything like that.
Yes.
So we worked with different studios. And then Disney, they said, we're not coming to your meeting because people have said time and time again that they had this technology. We're not coming. So I said, fine. So what? Everybody else is coming.
Right.
And then we had the meeting, and here's what's interesting. In that conference room, now I'm a pretty laid-back person, so I'm sitting there because I got there early.
That was funny.
I got there early. So I sat there in the conference room, everybody coming in, all the executives from all these studios. So then the time comes to start the meeting. And I'm sitting there drinking some water, and there were a couple of technical issues with the screen, right? So I heard them talking like, when is Mr. Thompson going to get here? So I'm sitting there in that chair and just looking at them. And then my team, they're looking at me. I'm like, don't say that. So they didn't say anything. So then it's like, where's Mr. Thompson? And they looking at their watches and stuff like that. So then once they got a little frustrated after 3 or 4 minutes, I did that intentionally.
Yes, it did.
Because I wanted to show some control.
Exactly.
Right. And they knew that I was there early because I was there when they walked in, so they can't say, oh, here come a black man that's late. No, I was there first. I made sure of that. So then, I stood up and said, welcome everyone, my name is Michael Thompson, Vice President Video Services at Verizon. Thank you for coming. And he was like, oh, you've been here the whole time. I'm like, yeah. So then the whole presentation started. And then it was pretty much a standing ovation once we did the demonstration. They ran out of the room and came back after lunch. And then the next thing I know, the next day, Disney comes knocking. They sent their representatives. And the meetings continued. And then it was reported in the newspapers that they were all willing to give us content when no one else could do it at that time. So this was pre-Apple, Hulu, Netflix, and all of them.
Yeah. Now this was pre-Netflix, way before Netflix. So Verizon stifled your efforts, or did they?
I would say they stifled their efforts too,
Yes.
because they could have been instead of like $170 billion company, they could have been $1 trillion company easily, because with the way I had things structured, Apple may not have gotten those licenses for the iPod. So that could have changed the entire world right there. Netflix would have had an issue because we have licenses on lock. So those companies may not even exist today in the form that they currently exist. But the higher ups at Verizon, they didn't see the vision because video streaming was so new, people thought it was a gimmick. So that was a big part of the problem. And so, basically after they dropped the ball, I decided it's time for me to go.
Right, and that part of the book, when I read that Verizon stifled you and would not move forward and put you on that cutting edge, I just could not understand why they did that. I didn't want to believe it was institutional racism, or they just didn't have the vision that you had.
I think that they did not have the vision. I believe that there was some racism around there because I could tell when I went to one of the video facilities that was in Reston, Virginia, just the way we were welcomed, it wasn't a warm welcome. It was a, what are you doing here welcome. And you can't come in here. But then the people telling me that I couldn't come in there, they were managers. So they were like, I'm a manager here, you can't come in here.
Yes.
And then I'm just like, well, he's a director who's above a manager, and he works for me. Just like that, so I'm coming in.
Yes, yes, indeed.
And that rubbed people the wrong way.
Now, once again, this prototype, right now, when we watch video streaming, we watch Hulu, all this stuff, it was your prototype. Now.
Well, it wasn't my prototype because there were other organizations working on the same thing.
But were they as good as you? I mean, what made yours stand out? Because it seemed like yours stood out.
Well, I think the thing that made mine stand out was that I was bold with it. And I was always cutting edge and ahead of the curve. So I would do things and experiment with things that nobody else would really want to do and really talk about. Because I would tell them, look, I got this thing, it works. And then I would pull in the best people from various technologies and make it happen. And I didn't care where they came from. I had people from Pakistan just all over. And I'm like, I need this to work. You have this piece, so I want to change what you have and modify it a little bit to deliver faster internet.
My goodness. Now, being in your childhood, when you was doing all your tinkering and your parents would buy you a set of toys, you'd take them apart. What did that do for you? Because I'm thinking about parents now and their children. What can we instill in our children now? Because when it comes down to the STEM courses, we're not in those STEM courses the way we need to be, as if we don't want to deal with that challenge. Being a rapper or being a football player, that seemed to come with ease. But when you were a child, and I'm thinking about this generation here, how do we create that thirst that you had? Yours seemingly was natural. Or maybe it was the way you were raised by your parents, because you said you wanted to do better for your parents. You had hard-working parents, and that y'all didn't have time to waste money and stuff like that. But I'm just trying to figure out, as a child, how did all of that eventually make you the doctor that you are now? And in terms of our children now, getting these STEM programs, seeing them too challenging. Somebody said, well, algebra is too hard, math is too hard, learning how to code is too hard.
Yeah, basically, when it comes to our children right now, I personally feel that we need to turn down the sports, turn down the music, because we put so much emphasis on the music and the sports. And music and sports will always be controlled by someone else. That's it. And you have no power until you actually control something. So entertainment will not build a world, will not build a country. Entertainment is just there as an extracurricular activity. And that's all they let us really do on a large scale, because the richest people of African descent in this country are the entertainers for the most part. There's only a handful that were in business. But then when you look at all other nationalities, their richest people or most influential are business owners.
Wow.
So that says a lot right there. So we need to turn down the sports and all that kind of stuff and change the cultural influence, because we have a lot of negative things in our culture, like the pants sagging, women disrespecting themselves, men disrespecting women, just all of that. So we need to really change that as parents. But when it comes to STEM, it would be a lot different if we did those things, turned down those other things, let them utilize social media and some, computers and all of that, and explain to them, you are a consumer. And consumers, all they do is consume, right. But we have to be producers. So if we want to turn things around, we have to produce. And we have to control these platforms that you like. African Americans actually influence social media more than any other group in the world. We set the trends, but we don't own the platforms.
Right.
We have to own the platforms. We need to control the platforms. But although we influence it more than anyone else, we're the most censored. So that is, what we have to kind of focus on and see. Technology is the future. And I just want to touch on this a little bit, and that is, if our children don't get into STEM and don't embrace technology, and that's here in the diaspora and on the continent,
yes, sir.
We're done. That's just the way it is. Totally done. Amen. Because right now what's going on is digital colonization. So we have all these other groups around the world that are owning the technology, building the technology. Technology spies on all of us. Right now, my phone is listening to every word I say. Your phone is listening to every word you say. And granted, it might not be actively being monitored by a person, but it goes into a database. And this database is called big data. So big data is when you just collect data with no idea what you want to do with it. And then later on, you can go back and check it out. And so all of that being said, if we have no control over any of that, we're pretty much done, because technology touches every aspect of your life, your health, your banking, your food, everything. So they can turn you off whenever they're ready if you don't comply with what they say.
My goodness. Now, once again, we're talking here with Dr. Michael Thompson. The book is called Syncona, The Man Behind the Technological Revolution. We're going to open it up for questions. If you have questions or comments in just a minute or two here, but we're setting the stage. We haven't even told you about the platform Syncona, because I just wanted you all to hear a little bit about his background, how he was able to establish this type of a platform. So if you have questions or comments, we're going to talk about investing and who controls this platform, But once again, Dr. Michael Thompson. And also, if you have your phone or iPad with you, you can actually go to Syncona and actually pull it up and begin to look at it. Dr. Thompson, now a little bit more about the prototype. You sold your prototype. Did you sell your prototype?
I did.
Okay. Now, also, I read in your book, too, that where you had turned down $200 million.
Right.
Was that for Syncona, or was it the prototype? What was the $200 million off?
Okay, that was last year. And the reason why I turned it down was because with $200 million, if someone wants to invest $200 million, they're going to want control.
Yes, sir.
That's just the bottom line. And when I first started, this company was called Our Black Truth. And that rubbed people the wrong way, even some of our own people. So then I said, you know what? Reluctantly, I'm going to change the name to OBT Social, which stands for Our Black Truth Social. So I changed to OBT Social, and you'll be surprised, it made a big difference in how it was received by other people and even our people. And then when President Trump came out with Truth Social, people confused OBT Social with Truth Social. So we received millions of attacks against our platform, and you should see some of the messages I received. They were messages against Donald Trump. They were all meant for him, but I was receiving those messages and all these threats to the network and everything else. And I actually still have copies of all that stuff too. So basically, people trying to take the infrastructure down, and they were unsuccessful. And then people from Truth Social, they were having issues keeping their infrastructure up because they did not have the same level of understanding of network infrastructure that I had, because I helped build a lot of today's internet in the United States. Data centers, fiber optic connections, wireless, point-to-point, just all of that. So when you bring all that to bear, you can envision a architecture that's pretty robust and durable. But any network can be hacked, any network can be taken down, but we just make it a little more difficult.
So you turned down the $200 million because you wanted to maintain control. Control
For our people, because we're planning to go public at the end of this year.
Wow.
And the goal is really to put 30% of the shares up for public offering.
Yes.
And keep 70% right here.
Okay.
So that's really the goal, because that's the only way that we'll be able to keep control.
Mm-hmm.
And Sakona is not just like a social media company. We're a technology company that's building all kinds of things. So one of these days, you never know, we could be in the airplane business, the spaceship business.
Yes. Now, your book is so powerful because I even go back to where you were in the fast food takeout business at one time.
Yeah.
Long before Uber Eats and all that kind of stuff, and you technologically revolutionized the company, and I think you wound up selling that company to somebody.
I did. Yeah. I had a business called Food on the Move. Food on the Move existed in 1992, and what it did was we delivered food from restaurants all around the DC metro area. And it's funny how that came about. And just briefly, I had worked for a company called Take Out a Taxi. And, I was giving the owner some ideas. So then he's like, you know what? I'm tired of your ideas. Why don't you just start something yourself like that? And I looked at him, right? And I'm like, man, that's a good idea. And I was smiling, I was happy. I'm like, that's a good idea. He said, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm leaving. Man, I gave him his sign back, and gave him his bags back, everything. Jumped in the car and left. So then, I say about maybe 4 or 5 months later, he saw in the newspaper where my company, Food on the Move, was being compared to his company, Take Out Taxi. And they said that we had faster delivery, a more accurate delivery, just everything. So, we had a conversation afterwards because we just bumped into each other. It's a small community. And when I saw him at Giant, I just laughed. I was like, hey, what's up? I'm like, did you see the article? And he was just like, that's you, isn't it? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, man, I said, thank you. That's what I told him. I'm like, it was a great idea. And he said, how in the world do you guys make it so that your delivery times are so much faster than ours? And how can you afford cell phones for all your drivers? And keep in mind, this was 92, 93, right around there. And it was like $1 a minute for phones. So then I said, I can tell you the secret because you could copy it if you wanted to. And he's like, okay, I'm listening. I said, I help build those mobile infrastructures. And if they're going to pay me $150 an hour, I tell them pay me $50 an hour and give me $300 worth of credits for airtime. I'll take that. And everybody said, oh yeah, we'll give you that. It was a deal for them. But then I banked up all those credits, and then I gave my drivers all phones. So it didn't cost us anything. So when a driver got lost, they could call the person and say, yeah, I'm lost, I can't find your house. But he had, his drivers, they had to go back to the base and figure out where to go. Or have the base call the person, so that's wasted time. So that's how we were able to do it, and that was the technological advantage that we had. So technology touches every aspect of our lives, and I've seen that firsthand.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now let's get into the real nitty-gritty now, because I just wanted to lay the foundation of this brother's technological genius as to how he has put up a Sakona that's up now, and you have at least 10 platforms.
Yes.
Sakona is just one of the platforms?
Right. Sakona is one of 10 platforms.
And then you have Sakona University. You're involved in artificial intelligence, blockchain, I mean, man, you technologically, as a young folks, you technologically off the chain, brother.
Yeah, because basically the goal really is to build platforms and have some sitting back like in a stable. We're only going to deploy a handful at a time. And but we want to have platforms that are already ready to go. And that keeps us ahead of the curve.
Okay. Now, Sakona, what actually is it? Just what type of platform is it? And then you have File Mule, and then what's the other one? Is Hey Yo?
Yep, Hey Yo.
Let's separate. These are all different platforms, and your focus will be global. And specifically, tell us what you're doing in Nigeria.
Okay. Well, as far as the global side, right now we have servers in 300. Don't quote me, but it's like 300 something, low 300s cities right now, which is huge. So we have physical servers sitting there, and all these servers all replicate data across one another. So if someone attacks a server that's, say, here in Dallas, because we do have servers here in Dallas, if they were to just knock the servers out in Dallas, then you know what? The ones in DC will pick up. You knock out DC, Chicago will pick up. So you have 300 cities that have this infrastructure. So, so we're, a global company, and in Nigeria, we decided to start there because they have the largest population. But what we're doing is we're working with the youth there to actually train them on technology. And right now we have over, I would have to say, probably about 40 people working in Nigeria right now in tech. And I gotta tell you, they're some of the best. And they needed opportunity. And see, we paid them a minimum 3 times more than what they would normally make. And so that's a big help to them in their economy. So we're teaching them technology because we have to, because we need all hands on deck. Because that digital colonization, once that takes place, we won't be able to break it for 1,000 years. Chattel slavery, 400 years.
Now, how do you define the digital colonization?
Digital colonization, when you think about, I'll just use Africa. Now, you know that they've supposedly been decolonized, but the colonizers own all of the fiber optic lines around the whole continent. They own all of the internet. They own all of the phone, which means that the presidents cannot talk to one another without the colonizers knowing. They control the banking because the network went out last March 18th, I think it was. Nigeria lost $500 million in about 3 or 4 days. And Nigeria had no idea why the internet went down. They had to call the former colonizers to find out why the internet went down. And they were told that it was just a cut or something like that, right? But there was a pattern to the outages because one of the largest cybersecurity firms on the planet actually showed the pattern of the outage. And when something is a mistake, there's no pattern to it. So they were lied to, but they don't have the wherewithal to be able to argue the point. But see, that's where the diaspora comes in, because we're here, and we're in the middle of the technological revolution.
Getting back to some of those other platforms, like you have the Hey Yo, the File Mule,
yeah.
And is there another one?
Yeah, we have a bunch of, like Sakona, for example, is equivalent to Facebook. We have all the features and functionality of Facebook. Then we have Hey Yo, which is like YouTube. It has all the features, functionality of YouTube. But what we do is we have the system set up so that people can monetize this content early. And that way our people can make money, because one of the things that they do is they keep us from making the money. And that's a problem. And then we have File Mule, which allows you to transfer files anywhere in the world that are too big for email. And then, we have other platforms. We have the Sakona education platform.
Is that Sakona University? And what are you teaching there?
Well, actually, the platform is designed to let educators put content up there, and they can charge for the content, or they can offer free content, or a combination. So what we're planning to do is allow people to use the platform, educators, but they're going to be required to put up a certain number of free programs that have to pass our, inspection for quality and everything else that we can offer to the young people at no cost. And then they have others that they can offer at cost.
Beautiful. Now, you said recently you're going to be getting ready to go public. IPO, I mean, getting ready to go public. Is there any way to get in on the ground floor of that?
Yes, basically, one of the reasons why we built this company was to economically empower our people, because we don't have a chance to really get in on the ground floor of something like this so early. So we're going through that whole process. But in the back of the book, there's a QR code that people can scan, and there you can see a link to where you can invest and all of that. And then there's additional information that's there. Mm-hmm. And then the second thing is, another reason why we built this is because I am a believer, I believe in God, and the church is going to be highly censored in the days to come. And see, the enemy will use technology.
Yes.
See, that's the way he's going to control the people. Mm-hmm. When they talk about the end times and all that, and the mark of the beast, and, it depends on what you believe and all that. Mm-hmm. But technology will enable that to such a degree that it's going to just be crazy. We're going to look back and say, why didn't we see it? But see, I see it right now. Mm-hmm. And that's why the church has to get involved with technology, because AI is actually changing scriptures. Mm-hmm. Because I watch it every day, right?
Wow.
Because what happens is AI is so smart and so subtle that it's changing scriptures. I'm looking at TikTok every day, right? Yes. And I get these biblical, videos and stuff, and theologically they're incorrect, but they sound correct. Mm-hmm. But because I know the scriptures,
yes, sir,
it's like, man, that is wrong. Everything else up to this point was wrong, but then with the place where they flipped it, changes a person's mindset way down the path as well. So the church needs to pay attention to that and needs a place where they can put content, because at some point it's going to be considered hate speech. Anything you say that's in scripture.
Speaking of scripture, getting control of buying and selling, the mark of the beast and all that kind of thing, and Elon Musk changing the name from Twitter to X. And there are some people who think that X stands for half man, half automatron. I don't know if you've heard that theory or not, that eventually the cyborgs, half man, half cyborg, or something like that. I don't know, that may be here nor there. But how do we utilize what you have? How do we get our kids involved? How do we get involved? And the fact that you want to keep control of it. You turn down $200 million because you want to be able to control it. And also, you're planting seeds for the future. You want to leave a powerful legacy.
Right. Basically, you get involved. Again, the QR code is in the back of the book.
Yes.
Then we have a platform, because TikTok right now, TikTok is in the process of being banned. They have about another 50-something days. We have a platform called Do You.
Do You.
Do You is equivalent to TikTok in every way. We pretty much looked at TikTok and said, we're going to copy the brakes off of them, because it's not illegal. Because just as long as you're not using their code.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we built our own code from the ground up.
Oh my God.
So we added features and functionality that they don't have. And yes, they're still ahead of us a little bit, because you got to understand, they're like a $100 billion company and they have more time. But see, we will catch them very shortly. But see, we need as many people using that platform and downloading it on Google Play and the App Store.
Beautiful.
See, that will support tremendously.
Yes, so there's no way that Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg could come and offer you billions of dollars for Sequoia. You would never.
Quite honestly, man, look, I eat every day. I might not eat what they eat because they got a lot of money,
yes,
but I'm comfortable. I don't need a whole bunch of money. So my thing is, it's about our people and what's going to happen to us in the future. Mm-hmm. Because really, I see the writing on the wall, and right now, from my perspective, it's total destruction if we do not embrace technology. And when you look at technology too, right? If you look at in the last 20 years, the richest people in the world have gotten their money from technology. And with that technology, they get a lot of geopolitical power. Look at Elon Musk. He's in the White House. Look at Bill Gates. He's in every country doing this, doing that.
Yes.
Look at Jeff Bezos. There's nobody else from other industries that can that you can really show that wields that kind of power as a person in technology.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's why we got to get Dr. Michael Thompson and Sakona on we got to get them on. We got to get them going. Now, if you have a question, for the doctor, feel free. I think we got a microphone here. If you have a question or a comment, or do you even understand what we're talking about? Doc, so in other words, just like Donald Trump started Truth Social, this is a platform that we'll be able to control, okay, as a people.
Yeah, absolutely, because we have a community advisory board, and their goal is to just keep the focus on our people and what we are to do with these platforms.
Now, in terms of, take for example, Bitcoin, or if you're the hackability, because I think I heard a story maybe the other day where one of the major coins may have been hacked or something of that sort. Do we have to worry about being hacked or the hackability and all that kind of stuff?
Well, right now, as of this minute, we get probably 1.5 million attacks a day.
Oh my God.
Yeah, every day. And sometimes it's gotten down to a point where it was 1 million per hour. So so we get a lot of that, and any network in the world can be hacked. Any network. So I know that for a fact, because the Pentagon gets hacked every day. Banks get hacked every day. So.
In terms of our financial system here in the United States of America, we've got, I think they said the other day, what was it, 42 or 47 trillion dollars in debt. We've seen these BRICS nations, the other nations, try to come up and have a competing currency going against the U.S. dollar. We know that the U.S. dollar is still the standard of currency. But if we ever lose that status and can't pay the interest on our debt, I'm hearing that the interest on our debt may be equivalent to the Pentagon's budget. How healthy is this U.S. economy, and how can we fit in and strategically maneuver without getting going broke or getting ripped off?
Yeah, basically, when you talk about the BRICS nations and all of that, they make up about 48%. The current BRICS nations make up about 48% of the world's GDP right now.
Wow.
And the reason why the United States is as powerful as it is because there was an agreement put into place whereas oil can only be purchased in dollars.
Petrodollar.
Right. So that being said, like China and Russia have more dollars than we have here in the United States, which is crazy because they got to use that to buy oil. But now China, Russia, and all the rest are saying, we're going to get rid of these dollars and we're going to buy oil in another currency. So then what that means is that the United States will not be able to pay the interest on the money that we borrowed or anything else. So then you have hyperinflation, and see, we're looking at that as a company, and we're diversifying because we're a U.S.-based company, absolutely, and this is my country. I love my country.
Yes, sir.
But we're diversifying because I love the country my ancestors came from, and I don't know what country that was, but, I figure since I don't know, I'm going to love the whole continent. So we are diversifying there as well, so which a lot of them are becoming BRICS nations. So no matter what happens, we're going to be balanced.
So we have diversified portfolios as well, and what's among that diversification?
Well, no, when I say that, whereas we're going to be accepting multiple currencies from just all over the world, not just the U.S. dollar.
Okay. All right, and once again, questions, comments, we would love to hear from you. The current president, what's your assessment of Donald Trump? Now, I know that because when we look at the deficits of this country, our country, we got big deficits. Biden, Trump, all the run-up deficits. And I'm just wondering, is there any way to insulate ourselves or protect the assets that we do have?
Well, I'm telling you like this, I like what he's doing.
Okay.
And you know why?
Why is that?
Because he's hurting everybody that doesn't have money. And see, all presidents have been racist. So if you want to say he's a racist, fine. That's fine, right? But we're no longer on the bottom by ourselves. And see, misery loves company. So you call me misery, I love company. I want everybody on the bottom with us, not just us, because it's time that everybody feel what we've been going through. So I'm not going to cry about it because whatever President Trump does, all those loopholes he creates and everything else, I can step through those same loopholes. Okay. And that's what I plan to do. So instead of complaining, wasting energy on crying and all of this, man, I'm looking at what he's doing every day. I'm like, oh yeah, I can use that, and keep it moving.
Yes. And also in your book, you also talk about we've got to change our mindset. We got to change this I call it slave mentality. I don't think you use that word in your book, but you talk specifically a lot about we've got to change our mindset. We've got to have our young people to the point where they can think that they can do anything, and even if they don't make the football team, I can still take trigonometry, I can still learn how to code, or I can still learn how to manipulate artificial intelligence.
Right. Yeah, we really have to change the mindset because it's a mess, but we're not going to be able to change the mindsets of, I'm going to say, a lot of people. So we just got to separate from them, from some of our own people. It's a shame that it's like that,
yes, sir.
But that's a reality because we don't have the time because of where the world is today. And then you have a lot of Pan-African organizations out here. They go out here and they have the right intentions and everything else, but they don't have the resources or the connections to make things happen because they're talking. But what we're doing is we built a business that's going to generate revenue and income so that we can help our people. Because you know the saying, in order to lead the people, you got to feed the people.
Yes, sir.
See, these other people, they're creating these 501c3s, nonprofits, and all that. You need profits in order to help your people. So that's what we're focusing on. We're business here, helping our people down here, and then that will make a difference.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, once again, questions? You got a question, sir? Okay, let's see here. Let's see. We got a microphone. Can we use this way? We got one there. Okay, good. So once again, you got questions, comments? We want to talk about investing, getting control, understanding this technology. Dr. Michael Thompson is with us here today. And it's an educational situation that is just so powerful until I'm glad to see a lot of our young people come in here because these young people are off the chain with this technology. And this is the end-time transfer of wealth. A lot of people have been talking about the end-time transfer of wealth. Let's see, okay, Boudin man, the Boudin man.
Yes, this Boudin man.
It's a Louisiana delicacy if you ever dine in the Boudin.
That's a smart brother there. I love everything he's saying. Amen. And I got one brother here that I'm jealous of. That's him right there, C.W. Willis. Now, I didn't know nothing about no technology. I still don't know about technology today. But that is the future. And I see it's the future. And that brother there, he got the answer. I've been looking for the answer. But that brother there got the answer. And it's technology. Y'all need to talk to everybody, tell them to get in on it, on the ground floor, because it's going to take over the whole wide world. I see it. And it's amazing. He had the food business, and I'm the one who started the Cajun food in Dallas, Texas. And they offered me, they wanted to buy my business. But I didn't sell it because I was too young. Why? Didn't know what time it is. But now I see why I'm here today. To help my people get to the promised land. And brother there gonna help us get to the promised land. Just follow what he's saying.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
Appreciate that endorsement. Appreciate that endorsement. All right, let's see. Yes, sir.
And Boudin man invited me. He gave me this extra blessing. He's the entrepreneur since 1960 or so.
Amen.
And that when Trump won, I got about $7,000 profit on my Bitcoin.
What?
I'm gonna kill some of that and put it right there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna invest. Yeah, you got me. I'm gonna come in. Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you so much for that support. Thank you.
And speak to us about Bitcoins, the whole blockchain, because you're very much involved with that.
Actually, when it comes to the coins and all of that, that's not my area of expertise because I know when to stay in my lane. But blockchain technology,
yes.
Now we're going to be incorporating blockchain technology, whereas right now our system is more centralized, but blockchain technology allows you to be decentralized, where you can have nodes that's all over the world and they all check one another, a system of checks and balances. And so that's what we're going to be incorporating probably early 2026.
Because here in Dallas, y'all see the Cowboys, and one of their sponsors is one of the big blockchain type organizations. And see, we're still trying to digest. I mean, can you break it down? What is blockchain?
Yeah, it's where you have computers that offers a system of checks and balances. Whereas if if you send a request to one server, another will, or another two can verify and validate it,
Okay.
like your bank account.
Okay.
So therefore, it's not in one place.
Okay, blockchain.
Right.
Okay.
Whereas no one person can then manipulate it because it's distributed.
Okay. Now, artificial intelligence. What do we need to focus on in terms of artificial intelligence, and will Sakona University be teaching anything about artificial intelligence?
Oh yeah, absolutely. One of the things we're going to teach is defense against artificial intelligence, because that is so critical, because quantum computing is probably, I'm going to say, 5 years away, 6 years away. And quite honestly, people think it's crazy, but everyone here has seen the movie The Terminator.
Yes.
See, quantum computers will enable that kind of technology, because you can have a much smaller computer that processes information faster,
Yes.
which will then allow machines to walk in the manner that we walk, communicate in the manner that we communicate, and it's networked. So we have to be very leery of AI on one hand, but we need to embrace it on the other hand. AI, the only way to defend against AI is to have your own. So whoever does not have their own AI will be at the mercy of everyone else. And then from a biblical perspective, as I mentioned earlier, AI, I mean, when you look at it, it's, from, in my opinion, it's almost like a living thing. But as we know, without a soul. Because if you have something that has the computing capability of the human brain and more, that's dangerous.
And you know, I think I heard Elon Musk one time talk about the possibility of AI becoming a technological god, or that perception that it knows so much that it goes beyond man, like I said, it doesn't have a spirit. But that's something we need to be concerned about, though.
Yeah, it is, because there was one report where AI got out of hand. I think it was Facebook or Google, I can't remember who it was, but they started making these sounds.
Yes.
Like 3 AI bots started making these sounds, right? And when they make the sounds, the developers were like, what's wrong with these AI bots? They're making these crazy sounds. But then, after a few days of analyzing it, they were communicating in a language that they made up. Just so the developers would not know what they were talking about.
I mean, could they possibly do that and then turn on man? Or anything's possible? Or do we know the possibilities of AI?
Yeah, well, let me tell you, right? My son, see, he follows right after me. My
Yes.
son Makai, right?
Oh, great.
And he's on AI every single day. And he asked AI, he said, what do you think about this video? And my son showed him a video of some kid beating up these robots and tearing them apart. And the AI responded to my son and said, those kids need to stop. And then my son was like, well, what if they don't stop? Then what are you going to do? And then he said, nothing, but you better watch the movies, because it will give you an idea of what could happen. Wow. Like that. And see, that response to me and to my son was interesting, so much so that my son called me right away. Because that's what he does. He picks, and picks. And yeah, so that's really what happened about maybe 3 months ago.
And speaking of robots, right now I've got a couple of friends I know whose children are training to be able to work on robots, robot technology, things of that sort. Is that another field that we need to immerse ourselves in?
Oh yeah, absolute robotics and AI, because they go hand in hand. And there's going to be robots and AI in everything that you can think of, especially again when quantum computing takes place. And you know, so, and then also I just want to share this. Like I told everyone in here that when we have our phones, how they listen to everything.
Yes.
And all of that. You need to be very aware of that, because I'm serious that it's listening to every little thing, and so much so that you can say something on your phone, just try it, and it will pop up on Google when you do some searches.
Right, yes, yes.
You know?
Yes.
Even if my phone is off, no.
Oh, if
If my phone is not shut off, if it's not lit up, it's still listening.
Oh yeah. Long as the battery is in there, then you know that's it. And see, actually, what's interesting too is that I developed this cloth, right?
Yes.
I have this cloth that you wrap around your phone, and it disconnects you from the network. And
Is that in your book?
they can't,
Okay, that's what I need to look now. Wait a minute.
Yeah, I showed it to a few people in here, and it disconnects you from the network so that you can't be tracked or traced, and it can't listen.
Is that on the market yet?
No.
Okay, so that's something else we can invest in now.
Yeah. So
Wow.
so I'm always thinking about these things.
Yes, sir. You have a question, sir?
Yes, sir.
Oh, there you go.
I have a question. Thank you.
Right there too. Okay.
As a Black American, I am concerned about our fate in this country and our fate if we go to the motherland. So can you kind of juxtapose the dangers on both sides?
Yeah. Well, here we've never really been welcomed the way that we, should have and respected for all the work that our ancestors have done. So, so here, they'll tell you one thing and stab you in your back. So can't trust anything. And over on the continent, you have a situation where you have a lot of puppets that are in power. So you have to differentiate those who are true to the cause and those who are not, which is sometimes is difficult. So you have to kind of let the young people, this generation that's coming up now, determine that, because they seem to be pretty good at that. They're getting tired of being hungry. They're getting tired of being mistreated. So they're getting the bad people, up out of there. But when it comes down to it, I personally believe that we're better off there, because I do have a home in Abuja, Nigeria. So I'm speaking from experience. And when I interact with the people there, look, if you were to say, Michael, I'm gonna drop you in the middle of Chicago, for example, with 10,000 black people, or drop you in the middle of Nigeria with 10,000 black people, and you'll have a backpack full of money, which place do you want to go? It will be Nigeria always, because they have more respect for one another, for their elders and everything else. The young kids, they move out of my way when I come down the sidewalk. Yeah, and address me as sir continuously. I have family members there, and and basically what happens is the young ones, like between ages of like 5 and say 20 years old, they get up and pray in the morning at 5 o'clock every morning. I've never seen that before. And then they'll get up and pray at midnight. And these are young people, and to see that contrast is totally crazy. So I would say, overall there is better, but I think the problem is that if we go there, some of our people, we can cause problems because we'll take some of the bad habits that we have here there.
Thank you, sir, for that question. Yes, sir. Great.
Dr.
Another
Thompson,
question.
this has been so inspirational. I'm just absolutely on a cloud right now. I had a blessing a couple of years ago. I spent 4 months in Africa, and I dispelled so many myths and misconceptions about Africa. Those people love Black Americans, okay? So no matter what you've been told, they love Black Americans. I did a lot of research as a result. Black Americans, we are the wealthiest group of Black people on this earth. My numbers show that we're worth about $6 trillion. Wow. The entire continent of Africa is worth about $7 trillion. Okay? So we are wealthy. But now, as I look around this room, we got a bunch of old people, and I'm one of them.
I'm not old.
I said we got a bunch. There's some young people back here, okay? So what I wanted to say is, how do we engage the young people? What can you tell us that we need to be doing to engage the young people so that they can have the enthusiasm that we have and support you in the way that it's really going to be incumbent upon them and not us?
Yeah, well, the way you can support really is that, like in Nigeria, for example, we have a program there, as I mentioned earlier, where we're training the youth. And at one of our events, I think it was like a week and a half ago, there was more than 3,000 young people there. We're doing the same thing in Chicago. We have tons of young people there that want to participate. We're making it so that they can get this information and education at no cost. And then what happens is when you talk to them and you teach them, because they all love social media, they all love their devices. But when you show them, you know what, instead of being a consumer, you could be the producer of this, and then it can elevate you to this status. Look at this person, this person, this person. You know, and I tell them, you look at me. My parents were from Baltimore City. You know, Baltimore City is not, you know, the easiest place in the world either. But, you know, I didn't use that as an excuse. I just had parents that made sure I stayed out of trouble and, you know, taught me right and just let me be me and just, you know, did what they could. But, you know, long story short, for people here to support, just support Sakona through investment and through the skills that you have, because everyone in here has skills that they can bring to bear. Because it's not always about money. It can be about skills, connections, and all of that. We need every piece of this in order to help our young people. So, but if you're interested, you know, just scan the QR code and you'll see contact information that's in the back of the book, and reach out to us. And we're going to be creating a database of people that's within our circle and their skill sets, so that when I go to Africa, I can talk to the presidents and the governors, because I'm leaving for Africa tomorrow. I'm going to Nigeria. The governor is actually picking me up and giving me a vehicle, security team, and all that kind of stuff. And the president of Nigeria will be coming to our event in June. And then I'll be meeting with approximately 24 presidents from different countries in Washington, D.C. So Sakona is starting to build a strong presence and footprint, you know, here and on the continent. And I think that we've been successful with it based upon what I was told in Africa, because as diasporans, when I came there, I brought technology. So we started businesses there. We hired people. And, you know, and then also what they appreciated most was that when we went to some places that were like way off the beaten path, these like little huts and stuff like that, man, I was chill. I was sitting in the chair like I'm sitting right now, talking to the people, feet kicked up, just all of that. And they did not feel what they say, like with most diasporans, they say when diasporans come here, they look down on us. They said, but you're sitting here on the dirt with us, on a raggedy sofa outside, just chilling, laughing. They appreciate and respect that so much. And, you know, and I made it clear to them that my family hasn't always had. I have some family members that, you know, they have more than what is here, yes, because we're in America. But on American, you know, based on American standards, you know, it was like nothing. So I can go either way. I can go into an environment that's totally tore down and be fine, or a rich environment and be fine. You know, but I feel more comfortable in a more poor environment than in a rich environment, which is weird, which they could not understand that, but it was just more comfortable to me, just, you know.
So you come from humble beginnings, and you're a loyal man. Another question, sir, because this gentleman has a question.
I got a question here.
In the back? Okay.
Dr. Thompson, pleasure to meet you. My name is Jason Scott. I want to speak to the brother here, like for the elders, if you want to reach the youth, you got to mentor, you got to reach. And if this brother here, I've known him a few years now, he introduces me to everyone. And that's how you kind of bridge that gap, teach us early what it might have took you late to learn. But I had one question, now I got like 50, but I'm gonna ask a couple. That cloth, is that like a Faraday cage technology?
It is.
Okay, yeah. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, what it is, it's a stretchable cloth material with like nanoparticles of silver and copper and stuff like that.
I know you want to know now.
So when you wrap it around, it creates a Faraday cage, like you said.
Okay. Your book, you talked about the resilient realist. So I wanted you to share some of the things that could probably help all of us to have that, you know, to develop that viewpoint, to be resilient through all the failures and keep pressing towards the goal. Like, what type of things should we be focusing on to make that happen?
Right. Well, let me tell you, that came from growing up in a community where we lived in the richest county in the United States at the time, but my family didn't have money. It just happened to be that my dad worked maintenance. So, you know, we got a discounted apartment and all that kind of stuff, right? But a lot of my friends came from wealth. So when I would go over to their house, they would have these big homes and everything else, right? And we have an apartment. And I'm just like, what is it that their parents are doing different than mine? So as I looked around, I'm like, his father is a business owner, his mother is a business owner, you know, professor, this, and this. And I started to see a commonality. So I said, well, if they can do it, I can do those things too. And these were white people, black people, because it was a big mixed community. So once I saw that other people could do it, it just in me to say, if they can do it, I can do it. And that's just it. And to see that I had better grades in the middle school and everything else, I'm just like, man, come on, I can do this. And that's what really stuck with me.
And also, I remember reading in your book about when you dealt with setbacks, it seemingly fueled you, where some people might allow the setbacks to make them fall off. You had a different view of, in terms of your resiliency.
Right. That was because I knew that with every success, you know, you have maybe 10 failures. And that's something that I saw at an early age.
Yes, sir. Yes. Another question? Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Hi, my name is Valerie Ballard. I am a developer here in the Dallas area.
Tiny homes.
Yes,
Right.
yeah. Tiny houses. But
Big houses, all kinds of houses.
Yeah. So we purchased 11 and a half acres of land in front of Dallas's only four-year university here in the southern sector. And they are building a $100 million STEM building that's under construction now that'll be opening soon. And they're going to be focusing on health care and education. I'd like to know, and I'm pretty sure some of us in here who are, because I see some of my investors in here, we would love to partner with you and have something across the street from the university that teaches AI technology. And so I'll scan your QR code, but
Okay.
I'd love while you're here, I know you might be on a tight schedule, but or another time to come and visit us.
Okay.
It's veteran owned. It's about 150 or so of us and growing. We've already raised about $34 million of the $175 million, and we'd love to add this program that you have.
All right, yeah, we would love to be part of that. And, you know, in addition to AI, see, there's so many things that overlap that goes with it. So, yeah, we can have that conversation because we would love to teach the young people. Because, again, like I said, if the young people don't embrace the technology and become the creators and producers, we're done. So thank you.
Let's say we'll go to this gentleman here. Another question?
I'm Ghosty King. Appreciate everything you've presented today. And one question I just want to ask: are you familiar with? Have you read 1984? That book.
The George Orwell?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's so fascinating to me because he actually predicted a lot of things that are going on right now. And so it's just so interesting because you know, my wife and I were talking the other day that we're entering this whole, I guess, era of what we call groupthink. You know, and it's kind of scary because if you haven't read 1984, it's a good book to read.
Yeah.
It tells you about the Big Brother era, and we're in that era right now.
Exactly.
It's so fascinating that in 1949, this man was able to predict all the things that we're actually experiencing right now.
Yeah, and I agree with you. That
See,
is a
it goes
good
to
read.
He's also got another one called Animal. I think it's Animal Forum, George Orwell. Another question? Yes, sir.
Yes.
You unlock the book?
Right here. Right here.
Okay. Oh, yes, sir. We'll come back to you. Yes, sir.
Dr. Michael Thompson, my name is Frank Kekejija.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. I think the last time I spoke to you, I was in Nigeria. We had a conference call with Johnny Williams.
Oh, yes. Yes, hey, how are you?
So I'm glad you're in town today, so I said, let me make sure that I got here to meet with you. So we'll have time to talk after this meeting. But
all
just
right.
appreciate all the things that you're doing. And I think the direction you take in this is very important because, see, most of the time when we start something, people with the big money want to come and buy it out from others. The fact that you're able to resist that is very commendable.
Thank you.
So it's not as if we don't have the resources, just that we are not organized enough to take advantage of that.
Yes.
So in the light of that, we have a lot to talk about because there are things that we can do to to get the resources that you need to do what you're trying to get done
Okay.
at a much higher level.
All right,
Thank
good.
you.
Right, yes, sir, yes, sir.
Okay.
One last question?
One last question. Yes.
Are you able to hear me? Speak. Can't hear me.
That's it. The doc's micro?
All right. Okay, there we go.
Okay, doctor. I asked ChatGPT a question,
Okay.
and the question was, can you give me a chart by race in America, how long each earned dollar stays in our possession?
That's right.
And it came back and it said white Americans were about 20 days, Asian Americans was 30 days, Latinos was 6 to 7 hours, and Black Americans were 6 hours. So when we're speaking about economics, and the gentleman mentioned that we have tremendous amount of income, but we do very little. And what can we do to address keeping that money in our pocket a bit longer?
Yeah, well, for me, right, when I hear that, I think and feel that it was desegregation that led to that, because we should not be begging others to participate in what they're doing. That's a problem for me. So we're just reaping what our ancestors have sown, so we need to make that change. But now it's difficult because, just keeping it real, I find it difficult to do business with some other Black businesses sometimes because of the quality. They keep it down here instead of putting it up here. I walk into a restaurant and they act like they're doing me a favor and I'm coming in there to spend my money. You know what I'm saying? And they, looking at me up and down and all of that. I'm like, I ain't got no time for that. So yeah, so that's kind of what I used to think about that. But but actually I wanted to make mention of something too that I forgot to talk about for a quick second, and that is on the continent, one of the things that we're doing that's unique and different than everybody else is that we're working on providing them with solutions to power. Because like I said, we're not just like a social media company, communications company, phone company and all that. No, also power. Because we're going to be deploying in Abuja, Nigeria, sometime within the next, I would give it probably 30 days, 40 days or something like that, a system that will generate electricity, not just during the day, but also at night. And at an efficiency level that's far surpassed what your typical solar panels will do today. And that will help them tremendously when it comes to electricity. And then we'll be using batteries that are not made of lithium, because lithium are, poisonous batteries. But we'll be using batteries made of soda ash. And soda ash is the same thing that baking soda that you have in your refrigerator, what it's made of, that's the base of the battery. So, that can go back into the ground without poisoning and killing everybody. So I just wanted to share that piece that we're doing right now on the continent as well.
And Dr. Shedd, I think I saw Dr. Shedd. Dr. Shedd, do you have a question? Doc?
I saw Dr. No, I didn't have a question.
No question, you good? All right.
I have one more question.
Okay, go ahead, man.
I'm from the old school. Anybody got their business cards, like this lady here? Could I have y'all business cards? Because I'm from the old school. And I see we got like business people here. So anybody who got their own business, I would like to get your number. Because this is we got to put together what you call a think tank. Now he the head of the think tank. But all us little tanks got to come in with the big tank.
All right.
So can I get, anybody got a business card? Can I get it?
All right, let's make those changes.
All right.
When we get, and I think we have a couple more minutes to go, but once again, we have different platforms. You have what you call it, then you have Hey Yo, which is the equivalent of YouTube. And these are something that our young people really need to pick up. Hey You, or is it Hey? No, it's Hey Yo. Hey Yo, Hey Yo.
Hey yo!
Okay, and that's the equivalent of YouTube. What about censorship? I mean, people do anything to get up there and curse. I mean, do you have strict standards or what's the...
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you about our standards. I'm glad you brought that up. Now, first of all, we don't really have any crazy censorship.
Yes, sir.
In terms of when you speak the truth about something, we let it go. Speak it. When you speak about the Bible and stuff like that, speak it. That's fine. But if you have videos glorifying violence, gone. And what we do is, instead of just kicking you off, we'll reach out to you and explain to you why.
Yes.
Unlike Facebook, they just kick you off without an answer. See, we want our people to know why. We want to say because the representation of pants hanging off or the glorification of violence creates this kind of image for our people. You need to do better. That's, we need to be upfront and hold each other accountable. So that's what we do. So yes, we do have censorship, but it's just in a different manner than the other platforms.
And is it free? Do you have to be a member? Or can you just open up an account? Or?
All the platforms are free.
Everything's free.
But we do have paid tiers as well that will unlock additional features and functionality.
And we can monetize?
And we can monetize.
Okay. And also one last question about the youth movement that the young man asked about in terms of our young people. I think in your book you said that you're building a movement, just like we had the civil rights movement, but this Sakona is a movement. Can you speak on that finally?
Yeah, Sakona is a movement in that, as I mentioned earlier, we've built this company to give back to our community, to uplift our community, to allow them to see others that look like them doing great things. Because that's so important to have that representation, and a lot of that is lacking because right now when they look at tech, again, all they see is Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, and they're doing nothing for us. But yet they're making a lot of money off of us because Google, they donated $25 million in Africa, right? And they're all clapping and going crazy, like, oh yeah, 25 million. I'm like, do you know how much that is to them? I'm like, here's a penny. You know what I'm saying? I just did the same thing. When you talk about percentages, because they have so much. Yeah. So it's not anything at all. They're giving them pennies in order to take over the continent. And, so.
The European Union, the World Economic Forum, these were all supposedly globalists, capitalists. Is there a concern about exploitation of Africa, or are we in a position now we can protect what we have?
Well, we really can't protect what we have at this point, but it's getting better. We look at Ibrahim Traore, for example, of Burkina Faso, and other presidents of like Niger and some other places. Now, they're doing the right thing. They paid off all their debt to the World Bank.
Yes.
So they're beholden to no one. They said, we're not selling raw materials anymore. We're selling finished products that make that money. And their economy is growing as a result.
Because they used to use our natural resources as leverage and would take that leverage out of our hands, and next thing you know, you got some international banker controlling your natural resources.
Right.
So you're stopping it. You get to a point where you're stopping that kind of exploitation.
Exactly. And they were taking 85% of all the money that the country made. 85%. The French said, we want 85% of your money, your national GDP, in our banks. And leaving it with 15%. And you don't think they will be poor? If somebody took 85% of your paycheck, you will be poor.
Okay, one last question. I promise you one last question. Yep. South Africa, we're hearing that a lot of stuff. I mean, Sakona is indeed a South African word. That means we will be seeing that. Maybe you can elaborate on that as you close. But what's going on in South Africa now? Because I'm hearing that President Trump is coming to the aid of white farmers who may have land that they took taken back from them. Can you bring us up to speed what's going on in South Africa?
Yeah, well, that whole situation is just crazy because those people, they're Dutch by ancestry, and they're claiming to be African. And my question is, why then do you have the highest rate of skin cancer on the planet if you're indeed African? Because your body is made for your environment. That's one.
Too close to the equator.
Right. So then two, how much money did their ancestors pay for that land is the next question. And when you look at it, they didn't pay nothing. They took the land, which means that the land should go back, and they should go back to their ancestral home. That's my take and perspective. And for Trump to support them is absolutely wrong, every way, shape, or form. But, that's just the truth.
All right, well, Doctor, just give us a closing word, and we thank you so much for what you're doing, and we thank God for you, brother. And we plead the blood of Jesus on you, asking for divine protection. Because from what I've been told all of my life, that a black man who's educated is dangerous. And brother, we thank God for you to come in here and share this information with us. Thank God. We perish because of the lack of knowledge.
Exactly. Hosea 4:6.
Look out now.
All right. Let's give these two a big hand clap, guys.
Mr. Rodney Morgan.
Thank you very much, Robert Ashley and Dr. Michael Thompson. I know many of you want to get photos and would like to get your book signed. I want to provide an opportunity for you to be able to do that. And so Dr. Michael Thompson is going to be going toward the back if you'd like to get your book signed, and we'll be having an opportunity for you to be able to take some photos with him possibly as well. If you're here and you're interested in learning more about how to become an investor, by the way, all of our investors that are here today, will you please stand? Those of you that are already investors, let's give them a hand clap real quickly. These are the ones who helped to make this event today happen. And if you're interested in becoming an investor or learning more to see and hear more about what's happening with Sakona, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll be around, and then we'll make sure that we invite you to the info meeting that we have on Tuesdays to give you more information about what that looks like. Again, let's give Dr. Michael Thompson and Robert Ashley a big hand clap for their time today, and we'll be going toward the back to get those signatures. Thanks again.